Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. And he is accompanied by the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, Member of Parliament, East Rural St. Andrew. Kindly make them welcome. Please remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Caribbean Maritime University Cadets. Ladies and gentlemen, the Caribbean Maritime University cadets, we just witnessed a drill display, and I know we're very small in numbers, but we can do a much better job than that. The precision, the attention to the details, thank you so very much. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. The Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, Member of Parliament, East Rural St. Andrew. The Most Honorable Professor Gordon Shirley, President and CEO, the Port Authority of Jamaica. Councillor Winston Ennis, Deputy Mayor, Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. The Honorable Dr. Patricia Marshall Dunwell, Custos Rotolorum, St. Andrew. Mr. Alok Jan, Board Chairman, the Port Authority of Jamaica. Rumfunda Plus, Sales Manager, Caribbean Damen. Captain Yenje Mijewski. To our special groups of persons, other stakeholders within the government of Jamaica, members of the maritime and shipping industry, MAJ, KFTL, the cadets from Caribbean Maritime University, the Harbors and Port Services Department led by Captain Hopton DeLissa, representatives from Damen, executives, of course, from the Port Authority of Jamaica, crew of the Jamaica 3 vessel, friends of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are watching us via the Port Authority of Jamaica's social media platforms, good evening. Good evening, and welcome to the christening and commissioning ceremony of the very beautiful vessel that is behind us, Jamaica 3. I am Dr. Terry Carell-Reid. It is a pleasure to serve you in the capacity of host. In fact, I am excited and elated to be here for a number of reasons. Number one, for the past 17 months or so, 99% of my events that I have hosted have taken place in my dining room. I've had an orange wall behind me, and I've looked at my face across the Zoom. And now it is so wonderful, even though we are small in number, to actually see a live audience. And I just want to let you know that I'm grateful for that. Number two, as we speak of the vessel Jamaica 3, I can't help but but think that this is the icing on the cake. Why? Because just last week we celebrated our 59th independence, and we saw our Jamaican athletes dominate at the Olympics. Do you not agree? We saw our national colors, our national flag. We heard our anthem, and we saw the national spirit displayed for all the world to see. And finally, the reason why we are here for the christening and commissioning ceremony of the Jamaica 3 utility vessel. For those of us who are not very familiar with cruise and harbors and ports, for some of us, this might just look like a blue ship. But after doing a walkthrough yesterday, I'm here to set the tone and to set the precedence that this is a beautiful vessel. She's customized, i.e., she's unique. She's robust, powerful, adaptable, effective, efficient, productive, resilient. Does she sound like a country we know? Jamaica 3 is aptly its name. And now, as is tradition for most of us, of course, here in Jamaica, before we continue with the proceedings, we'd like to invite the Holy Spirit to take charge. At this time, I invite Mrs. Lloyd Pinnock, Senior Property Manager of PHA, to kindly do the task. Please make her welcome.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Mighty God, we thank you for today. We thank you for your presence here with us. Mighty God, it's not because we're worthy, but because of this great love that you have for us and for us as a country. You have brought us here together to celebrate the commissioning and christening of this wonderful vessel. Mighty God, we thank you for the Port Authority and the purpose of the Port Authority. We ask that you bless this organization. We ask that you bless this nation, that you bless our leaders, that you bless our peoples, oh God. And even as we come to meet with other nations and to expand the industry, the maritime, the shipping industry. We ask, oh God, that this blessing will extend to all the other areas of this nation. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mrs. Pinnock. At this time, I'd like to invite the Professor, the Honorable Gordon Shirley, to kindly welcome and do the opening remarks. Please make him welcome.
The most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Juliet Holness, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and Member of Parliament for East Rural St. Andrew. We are to be joined by the Honorable Michael Phillips, Opposition Spokesman on Transportation, the Honorable Dr. Patricia Marshall Dunwell, Custos Delorum for St. Andrew, Mr. Winston Innes, Deputy Mayor of Kingston, Mr. Alok Jan, our Chairman at the Port Authority of Jamaica, and the Directors of the Port Authority of Jamaica. These include Commissioner Velma Ricketts-Walker, who is also, when she's not a board member, she actually is the CEO of the Jamaica Customs Agency. Mr. Jedrzejek Mierzerski, CEO of the Kingston Freeport Terminal Limited. Professor Evan Duggan, Interim President of the Caribbean Maritime University. Other distinguished members of the maritime and shipping industry. Executives and colleagues of the Port Authority, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming you to the Port Authority and specifically to our Harbors Department for the commissioning of the new buoy tender, the Jamaica 3, the first of its class to be deployed in the hemisphere. It is a vessel equipped with advanced technologies that provide it with great maneuverability, versatility, power, precision, which allows it to perform a range of activities that will substantially enhance the capabilities of our Harbors Department. The christening of the Jamaica 3 is not an isolated occurrence and needs to be placed in context if we are to fully appreciate the importance of its addition to the expanding fleet of vessels now under the control of the Harbors Department. Actually, Prime Minister, if the full fleet were here, you wouldn't have a lot of space out there. I'm not sure if the Harbors Department is showing us how busy they are because all the vessels are out working. But we will figure it out because they're supposed to be generating revenue, right, Elba? We'll check up on it. The acquisition of the Jamaica 3 with its advanced capabilities is part of a larger program to enhance Jamaica's competitiveness in the maritime sector. This program began in earnest with the decision to enter into the concession agreement with KFTL in 2016 for the development, expansion, and upgrade of the Kingston Container Terminal. Investments have been made by the concessionaire to improve the terminal's productivity. These investments have made it possible to attract new transshipment volumes to Kingston. It is significant, Prime Minister, that the growth seemingly accelerated throughout the COVID pandemic period. Not only have transshipment volumes been increasing, but with a newly dredged channel, larger vessels are now being deployed to Kingston in growing numbers by the shipping lines. Visits are now routinely received from vessels carrying 10 to 15 20-foot equivalent units, compared to vessels carrying 3.5 thousand units prior to 2016. Larger vessels, in turn, require larger tugboats to assist in the berthing and unberthing process. In 2017, a decision was made to issue an international tender for the provision of tugboat services for Kingston. The competition among the global tug service companies reflected the growing confidence in the Port of Kingston. Arising from that tender, the PAJ entered into a concession agreement with Ocean Limited, a Canadian tugboat operator, for the provision of tug services, which has seen the new concessionaire deploying 2 new, larger tugboats to the Kingston Harbor. Already, Prime Minister, there is discussion underway for the deployment of a 3rd tug, given the increase in volume of vessels entering the harbor. To guide the large new cargo vessels safely to berth and back out to sea, our marine pilots have upgraded their skills and now are experts at the task of managing the berthing and deberthing of these mammoth ships. To ensure the safety of the pilots and the pilot boat crew, new pilot boats were acquired equipped with the latest technologies, and the new vessels are substantially more efficient and capable than the much older vessels that they replaced. With larger cargo vessels visiting Kingston in greater numbers, more visits of feeder vessels have followed. Kingston, Prime Minister, has visibly become a busier maritime center, and the trend is growing. To maintain the safe passage of vessels in Kingston and in our other harbors, it is important that our navigational aids, our buoys, beacons, top marks, lighthouses, are upgraded to incorporate the latest technologies and that they be efficiently maintained. Safety of all the vessels traversing in and out of our harbors is dependent on it. The urgent need for the acquisition of the Jamaica 3 buoy tender to replace the old age Jamaica 2 is a direct result of these development trends occurring in a more competitive Kingston Harbor that I have described. The evolution of the maritime sector in Jamaica, in Kingston, has also seen the increased demand for human resources to staff the new companies that are entering into the expanding sector. PAJ is pleased that in this environment we have been able to retain many of our outstanding managers, seamen, engineers, and technicians. We have recommitted to improving the training and to the re-equipping of our maintenance facilities in response to these developments. We have also commenced the design and engineering work for a new home for the Harbors Department. As this process to enhance the competitiveness of the Port of Kingston has unfolded, the PAJ executive team is grateful for the oversight provided by our chairman, Mr. Alok Jan, and our experienced, insightful, and dedicated board of directors. Your support also, Prime Minister, and that of the team from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation has been invaluable and greatly appreciated. As a Port Authority, we believe we stand tall among our peers across the region. We are proud of the work of the Harbors Department. We salute their achievements, and we are pleased with the further expansion of the fleet of maritime vessels with the addition of a new Jamaica 3. We applaud the steadfast commitment of our team here at Harbors and across the wider organization to achieving our vision of being the Western Hemisphere's beacon of maritime excellence. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and again, welcome to this afternoon's christening and commissioning ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Professor the Honorable Gordon Shirley. I'm sure I speak for many persons, especially those who might be watching by the social media platforms. We're just passers-by. We pass the waterfront. You know, sometimes we stop, we look, but we take so much for granted. And listening to your address, your opening, your welcome remarks, certainly you don't take it for granted anymore, understanding that this is an entire ecosystem, that there is meaningful job creation, expansion, as well as retention, that there is technology and innovation that puts us right at the center of everything that happens. And I'm appreciative for the safety and the security that all of the seamen, the pilots, the crews are a part of. Thank you so very much for that. Now, speaking of pilots and the crewmen, 48 hours ago, I didn't even know what a boy tender was. And Captain Hopeton Delissa gave me the walkthrough yesterday, really explaining to me what makes this boat absolutely special. And I told him that I wouldn't get ahead of myself and I would not divulge any of his secrets. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together as we welcome Captain Hopeton Delissa, Harbor Master and VP Harbors and Port Services, to do the presentation on Jamaica 3. Please make him welcome.
Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, Councillor Winston Ennis, Deputy Mayor, Dr. Patricia Marshall Dunwell, Mr. Alok Jan, Board Chairman of the Port Authority, and other members of the Board of the PAJ, Professor Gordon Shirley, our President, and other members of the Executive, members of the shipping industry, Mr. Van der Plas, our sales manager from Damen Shipyards. He's responsible for the Caribbean. Other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm sure many persons traveling along our coastline would have observed red and green flashing lights in many of our harbors and ports around the island. You may also be aware that these lights are there to mark the access channels which are critical to the safe entry and departure of vessels to and from our island's ports, and also to assist in the important role played by our marine pilots. The statutory mandate of the Harbour Master includes the establishment and the maintenance of all navigational aids around the island. And by that I mean the buoys, beacons, lighthouses, etc. The achievement of this mandate is, however, made possible with the use of a specialized vessel referred to as a buoy tender. The acquisition of this new vessel is therefore a resounding indication as to how zealously we protect the safety and high standard of our navigational system in Jamaica. Our new buoy tender, Jamaica 3, which replaces our old faithful Jamaica 2 of 42 years vintage, will not only perform tasks related to the maintenance of navigational aids, but will also act as a utility vessel. This means all the necessary activities associated with harbor maintenance can also be undertaken. These include pollution control with the use of oil spill cleanup and recovery system, and pile driving to accommodate marine infrastructure works. The vessel also has the capability of transporting large quantities of material and marine equipment, as well as being able to facilitate an increased number of personnel on board. The Jamaica 3 is 39 meters in length overall, which is 12 meters longer than our previous vessel. This additional capacity, along with the deck spacing of 200 square meters, affords us the opportunity for increased efficiencies in being able to complete tasks, particularly during offshore operations. The vessel's total quality management system is approved to Lloyd's Registry Quality Assurance ISO 9001-2008 standards. The buoy tender is registered with the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. And Captain Stephen Spence is here with us today. And it also complies with the IMO conventions and codes, as well as the ILO Maritime Labor Convention. She's fitted with two C-18 Caterpillar engines known for quality and reliability, bow and stern thrusters of 350 and 250 horsepower respectively, thus enabling additional maneuverability. Internal firefighting system, along with international shore connection, has added safety features. Wastewater treatment system, which complies with shipborne environmental standards. One 9-ton capacity deck crane for lifting in marine operations, which can also be operated remotely. Other features of the vessel include an A-frame of 5,000 kilograms safe working load, which may be utilized in pile driving projects, after-deck towing winch of 10-ton capacity, accommodation and safety equipment for 20 persons. This vessel, as you heard, is technologically advanced and is fitted with an integrated navigation system comprising sophisticated nautical, navigational, and communications equipment. Among the main features of this vessel is a dynamic positioning system which allows the vessel to remain in the same position irrespective of the weather conditions. This feature will certainly help to increase our operational efficiencies, as there will be reduced time loss arising from adverse weather conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long, hard road from the time the acquisition of our new vessel was conceived to the time it became a reality today. A great deal of sacrifice and resources had to be called upon to keep the old vessel in a serviceable and seaworthy condition. The arrival of this much-needed replacement vessel is therefore very timely. In this regard, I would like to thank the government of Jamaica for its approval of the purchase some 2 years ago. It took 16 months to construct this vessel. Special thanks to the board of the PAJ, to our president, Professor Gordon Shirley, and the executive team for the many hours spent in making this a reality. To the captain of the vessel, Captain Helps, and our senior technical services manager, Mr. Carl Scott, who both work assiduously along with their support team at every stage of the construction. Finally, thanks to Dam and Shipyards for their cooperation and flexibility during the construction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the process of revamping our maintenance system and to optimize our operational thrust. Our objective is to utilize this valuable asset to further enhance Jamaica's navigational system in fulfillment of our mandate. Our aim is to embrace best practices and demonstrate to the rest of the world that we can indeed benchmark traditional maritime nations in achieving the goals as set out by the International Association of Marine Aids to Navigation and Lighthouse Authorities, of which Jamaica is a member. To the captain and crew, we say fair winds and following seas. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Captain Delissa. It's interesting. Yesterday when I was speaking to him, he showed me where the Jamaica 2 vessel, which is the older vessel, is now situated. And he said, you know, that's the old girl. She's done all she could, but now we're putting her in the back, and now we're bringing new space to the new girl. And, you know, I said, I didn't really like how that sounded. And he looked at me and I said, be very careful, because Jamaica 2 is just a mere 2 years older than I. So be very, very, very careful. But thank you so very much, Captain. You're such a gentleman. Thank you so very much for laying it down easy on me. A high standard of security, powerful quality, availability, environmentally conscious. I don't know if Captain Delissa actually mentioned that, but that was a huge part for me. Technologically advanced, efficient, and productive. And this was built in 16 months. Quite a feat. But we know that even though this vessel is beautiful and she sits on the dock right behind us, that without an exceptional crew, it means nothing. Therefore, I would like to just ask you and encourage you to kind of put your hands together as we acknowledge the crew, Jamaica 3 crew, that is sitting there to my left. I tried to come here looking as dapper as I could possibly, and the crew has completely made me know that I tried, but I failed to outdo them. Thank you so very much for your service. Now we're looking at a world-class vessel for a world-class country, if you ask me, which means that we have to collaborate strategically with a world-class manufacturer, wouldn't you agree? And therefore, we had no further to look than Damen Shipyard, because we were looking for the best of the best to increase and enhance our capacity and our efficiency and our customization. And therefore, we would like to invite Bombunda Plus Sales Manager, Caribbean Damen, to kindly bring his remarks. Please make him welcome.
Good afternoon to all. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Mrs. Juliet Holness, and other members of the Cabinet, members of the Senate, Councillor Ennis, Dr. Jean, Professor Shirley, board members and members of the Port Authority of Jamaica, distinguished guests and friends of the press and the media, and also CEO Gail. I must be honest in saying that this current setting feels slightly unfamiliar to me after so long of video conferences and online ceremonies, but I'm very honored and appreciative to be here standing here today. May I also take the moment to congratulate the organizing committee of organizing the current event in the current circumstances. The commissioning of any vessel carries with it a great sense of pride and stimulates a deep sense of joy to all involved. This is indeed the case today with the commissioning of the Jamaica 3 vessel. The Port Authority of Jamaica has been part of the Dama family for over 25 years now, where the professional relationship, which has been created and built upon over the years, has now resulted in yet another vessel from Dama. This new vessel adds to the current fleet of pilot vessels operating a daily service in the Port of Kingston. The Jamaica Defence Force is part of the Dama family as well, as being actually a first naval unit in the Caribbean to take the leap of faith with Dama patrol vessels, and they currently still get the delivery of Dama vessels. We are just thus forever indebted to Jamaica for their choice, and we feel very proud to be her partner in their maritime activities. We do hope to anchor this partnership and will continue to provide the expected assistance when needed. An example of this commitment is the recent increase of our local team of engineers to assist in maintaining the Dama fleet that is sailing in the Jamaican waters. The actual journey of the Jamaica 3 that she had to go through to get where she is now will be, in our opinion, a good fortune for the coming future. She had to battle the consequences of the COVID pandemic, which caused yards to shut down and main supply routes to be halted or closed. but she still came forward as a winner, which leads us to believe that she can handle every situation that will be thrown at her. The Jamaica 3, being a utility vessel 3911, has been specifically designed together with the technical team of the Port Authority of Jamaica to make their buoy maintenance operation more efficient, more reliable, more durable, and above all, safer for everybody involved. On behalf of the Idame team, I would again like to extend my thanks to all involved in the extensive project. I wish the crew good health and success in their operation in the coming years, and I'm very much looking forward to be part of her endeavors. Thank you to all. Have a blessed evening. Of course, fair winds and following seas. Thanks.
Thank you so very much. We appreciated the collaboration. What I was also told yesterday is that the after-service sales is where Damen really does a great job. So it doesn't just stop with the procurement, thank you very much, but it is the technical support and the assistance that you offer after the sale. So thank you so very much for that collaboration. Now, earlier we heard the Professor, the Honorable Gordon Shirley, speak of a man, and we're looking at from the procurement process, the negotiations, the upgrading of the skills, the technical abilities, increasing our capacity, the quality of the industry, the safety and the security. And he mentioned that it was because of the stalwart leadership. None of this can be done without visionaries and persons who want us to do better than we are doing. And therefore, it is with my great pleasure that I invite Mr. Alok Jan, Chairman of the Port Authorities of Jamaica, to kindly bring his greetings. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Madam Master of Ceremonies, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, Member of Parliament, Mr. Winston Ennis, Deputy Mayor, Honorable Dr. Patricia Donwell, Custos Rotolorum for St. Andrew, Professor the Honorable Gordon Shirley, President and CEO of the Port Authority, Mr. Bram van der Plas, Sales Manager, Caribbean Damen, Captain Hopton DeLisso, Harbour Master and Vice President, Harbour and Port Services, Port Authority of Jamaica, fellow directors of the board, executives, members of the maritime and shipping industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Port Authority of Jamaica is zealously committed to our mission to be developers and regulators of world-class facilities and services that ensures sustainable growth of Jamaica's maritime industry and deliver maximum satisfaction to all our stakeholders. The past year has been challenging for everyone, having to operate within the context of the uncertainties surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. Since being appointed in October 2020, the board has committed to the delivery of enhanced stakeholder value and sustained business growth in each of our segments of operation: cargo, cruise, BPO, logistics, and maritime services, while maintaining the highest standards of governance, transparency, and accountability. Despite the challenges of the past year, the Port Authority has completed and delivered major projects in each of those areas. Today's event focuses on one of the key projects in the Harbours and Port Services area of the Authority's operations. The Harbours Department is responsible for ensuring the safe navigation of all vessels in Jamaican waters. Specifically, the work of the department ensures the safe passage of all vessels into the island's 22 port facilities, 5 cruise ports, 3 public cargo ports, and 14 private cargo ports or sufferance wharves. The acquisition of the Jamaica 3 utility vessel signals a sharp focus that the authority places on the safety and security of Jamaica's ports and waterways. Many persons within the PAJ have contributed to successfully acquiring the vessel, mastering its operations, sailing it here, and bringing it to the point where we can commission it into service today. My role this afternoon is to acknowledge and thank a number of these persons. First of all, let me acknowledge the role of the board that I have had the distinction of leading since October 2020. Our projects committee, chaired by Mr. Littleton Shirley, with a membership team of Messrs. Edward Gabadon, Wayne McKenzie, and Alston Douglas, was instrumental in reviewing the project when it was being developed and in ensuring that the aggressive timeline for procurement was realized. The committee also reviewed the terms of the contract to ensure that the best interests of the authority were served. Our pilotage committee, chaired by Mr. Alton Douglas, supported by Dr. Kathy Ann Brown, ensured that the input of the pilots was obtained in developing the key specifications of the vessel. Our finance committee, chaired by Mr. Jerome Smalling, with Mark Hart as a member and Ms. Roxanne Linton as a co-opted member, was critical in reviewing the financial structure of the acquisition transaction. The committee also ensured that the PAJ did not overextend itself and, importantly, did not seek support from the government by way of guarantees in the acquisition process. While the President has already paid homage to the members of the Harbour's team in his remarks, I also wish to express a special word of thanks on behalf of the board to the Harbour Master, Captain DeLissa, and his team in the Harbours Department, which we feel is the best such department in the region. I salute the managers and supervisors, and I wish to thank in particular the skilled and talented trade persons that make up this elite team. On behalf of the board, I also wish to recognize the outstanding leadership of the President, supported by his management team, as well as the entire staff complement of the Port Authority. The past year has been a test of the organization's resilience. In addition to coping with the economic fallout from the pandemic, we have had to cope with the passing of beloved members of staff and family members. The way the organization has come together to navigate all these challenges has made me very proud, and indeed, this is worthy of commendation. Finally, Prime Minister, I wish to acknowledge your role and that of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for your astute leadership and guidance, which has influenced the strategic priorities of the organization. The support of the ministry and your role in particular has been critical in the implementation of PAJ's portfolio of projects, including the acquisition of the Jamaica 3. Although there may be great challenges, we also know we have great opportunities ahead. Prime Minister, I assure you that the board clearly understands your charge to us and the critical role that the Port Authority plays in the nation's economic recovery from the pandemic. We commit to delivering on your mandate, working with the same drive and commitment to excellence that have been synonymous with the Port Authority of Jamaica. Thank you for accepting our invitation to participate in this milestone occasion with us, and I look forward to your continued support as we pursue our vision to be the Western Hemisphere's beacon of maritime excellence. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Jean. Beacon of maritime excellence, governance, transparency, accountability, quality, and delivering even within an aggressive timeline. And it's interesting, I knew that the process took 16 months, but it slipped over me the fact that this was also during a pandemic. The fact that you had to keep the crew and all the persons who were a part of this process safe, their families safe, but to still meet that timeline absolutely is an example of excellence in leadership and in collaboration. So congratulations to you, the board, and the entire team. We appreciate the effort. Do you not agree? Do we not agree? All right, we're going to break for a musical presentation, but I wanted to introduce you to this fantastic gentleman who I met earlier, Daniel John Jackson. Never forget that name. Disciplined and soulful saxophonist with 10 years of experience in musical arrangement, performance, and ministry. He loves to use his gift to bless souls and making sweet melodies with his saxophone, which brings him joy and fulfillment, thus making him a sought-after saxophonist for some of Jamaica's most sentimental and influential events. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together and welcome Daniel John Jackson. Thank you so very much, Daniel. From the toe tapping that I saw and the gentle swaying, I even saw the PM get into it a little bit. I do think we agree that the song selection was fantastic. You can't go wrong with Berries. You can't go wrong with Smile Jamaica, and you certainly can't go wrong with Michael Jackson, right? King of pop. Thank you very much, Daniel. Now, this is the time when we introduce our keynote speaker, and I've had the pleasure and the privilege of introducing him over so many different kinds of events, and it gets harder considering all of the work that he has been putting in. Over breakfast this morning, my daughter made her prayer, and she said, PM, she prays that God will continue to protect us from COVID-19, the persons who she knows and the persons who she doesn't know, which is something typical that she says in all her prayers. But then she added this sentence, I kid you not. She says, and when the PM finds the cure for COVID-19, Lord, ensure that he shares it with the other countries in the world. And at the time, I laughed. I laughed because I thought it was so random, where did that come from? But when I really gave it a lot of thought, what it is saying, she's 9 years old, what it really is saying is that she has the belief, that Jamaica and a leader of Jamaica has the possibility and the power of finding the cure. You have to understand how that is a big deal, that we're not looking outside of our borders to be our saviors, but the fact that she's saying that, hey, I believe that we have the capacity to do so, and that we have a leader here who, when he does find it, no pressure, PM, but when you absolutely do it, then it is our duty, and I believe it is in our national pledge as well, to look out for the welfare of all of mankind. And so I realized that her prayer actually could very well be prophetic. I'm not too certain. But just to let you know that we see all the work that you do. And for those of us who do not have the pleasure of seeing the Prime Minister and knowing the Prime Minister, he has always pledged to build real partnerships. And that partnership is not just with the private sector, but with civil society, the diaspora, the opposition, international partners, because he believes that in order to achieve the vision and the goal that we have, which is prosperity for all Jamaicans, we cannot do it alone. And therefore, that collaboration and partnership is absolutely important. And it comes through economic growth and creating meaningful jobs. And so it is a pleasure, as usual, PM, to welcome you and to honor you as a visionary, as an innovator, and as a builder. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker for this afternoon is the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Please make him welcome.
Before I begin, let me say for the press and the cameras that are here, all COVID-19 protocols have been observed. In true shipman-like fashion, well-disciplined, well-ordered. Terry, thank you for your mastering of the ceremony. And I believe that we could enlist your daughter to assist us in our vaccination campaign, because indeed we have a solution to this problem, and that is for us to take the vaccine. So while I'm here, I do recall that I had a little note written from some employees of the Port Authority asking, at the time when we had a scheduling for vaccines, asking to be placed on the schedule, and I thought that was a great thing. So I would suspect, Professor Shirley, that all your staff members have by now taken advantage of the open season for vaccines. If not, I would encourage you so to do. And indeed, since I have this platform, and I am probably being carried by the media, to again make the appeal to all public sector agencies, their staff, management, to take the vaccine. I recall when the vaccines just came, and I was being criticized for not being the first to take the vaccine. And obviously, we did that because we wanted to set the principle of taking it when your turn comes. So we started out first by ensuring that our 60 and over, that our frontline workers, that those persons had the vaccine. And then, of course, when it became my time, I was first in line, and I took the vaccine. And I was hoping that having taken the vaccine, that I would then see a lot of other persons following. Yes, we have had quite a number follow. We are not quite at 10% of the population fully vaccinated, but we are heading there. We have enough vaccines now and enough vaccines scheduled to come. Please go out and take the vaccines. Thank you for allowing me to use this platform to deliver the message of taking vaccines. So allow me to acknowledge the Most Honorable Juliet Holness, Member of Parliament, Deputy Speaker, and one other important role, my wife. Our Deputy Mayor, Mr. Winston Ennis, our Deputy Mayor. Our Custos Rotolorum for St. Andrew, the Honorable Dr. Patricia Dunwell. Mr. Alec Jan, Chairman of the Port Authority. Professor, the Honorable Gordon Shirley, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Port Authority. Mr. Bram van der Plas, Sales Manager for Caribbean Damming. Mr. Captain Hopeton DeLissa, Harbour Master and Vice President, Harbours and Port Services Division of the Port Authority of Jamaica. Members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today I have the pleasure to be here for the christening and commissioning into service of a brand new utility vessel, the Jamaica 3. The science of navigation has improved tremendously in recent years. Not only has it become more precise with the advent of GPS, but with the newer differential global positioning system, we can calculate accurate navigational positions down to centimeters. I don't know if you need to do that on the sea moving so roughly, but I suspect the crew would appreciate the precise locational capabilities of the technology which is on this ship. The Port Authority, with this commissioning of the Jamaica 3, will have improved capabilities with access to these newer technologies. This new vessel will be used mainly in the maintenance of navigational buoys and beacons in the ports of Jamaica. Additionally, it will be used to carry out maintenance work on the two offshore lighthouses, that is the Morant Key and the Pedro Key lighthouse, which marks the territorial limits of Jamaica's sea space and assists with maintenance of other offshore assets. The acquisition of the Jamaica 3 is in line with the government's thrust to modernize public infrastructure and to leverage technology. As a country, we have underinvested in infrastructure and equipment over decades. I want to reflect on this point a bit. In driving down to this location, my team went on to East Street and we came down to this location. And it's quite clear that there has been significant disinvestment in our physical infrastructure, in our buildings, in our downtown waterfront area. And that disinvestment has not just been in our real estate infrastructure, but it has also been in other critical infrastructure for the good management of the country. And the point that we make here is that capital expenditures were sacrificed as the budget was overwhelmed with recurrent expenditures and by debt service costs. The fiscal discipline over the last several years has enabled us to prioritize capital spending to improve our infrastructure and truly position ourselves for growth. When I assumed responsibility for the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, one of the key questions I faced was, how do we use a state agency like the Port Authority of Jamaica as a catalyst for development and growth in a sector where Jamaica has a competitive advantage, but where the potential has yet to be fully realized? And that is a question that I ask of all the government agencies. So in the same way I've asked this question of the Port Authority, I've also had to ask this question of the National Housing Trust. How can we use your budget to increase capital expenditure in housing, for example? And we ask the same question of the UDC. How do we use your budget and your assets to improve capital investment in the country? I'm making this point because, you know, Terry, you are just 2 years younger, sorry to be calling out your age, than the 42-year-old Jamaica too. But the more critical point is that it has taken us 42 years to replace that asset. There are two considerations there. The first one is that we just did not have the capital budget to do it. But the second consideration is that because we didn't have the capital budget, we were trapped into recurrent expenditure to spend on maintaining that vessel to keep it seaworthy. To the point where we probably, if we had the space, we're spending the resources, so we probably would have spent 2 or 3 times over on that vessel already, but we just didn't have the accumulated capital to make the purchase. And that's a very profound point that we all should consider about what has happened to Jamaica in the last 40 years of our 59 years of independence. That we have fallen behind in many ways in terms of the disinvestment in our infrastructure. And 10 years ago, when this country made the decision that we are going to, as one country, one decision, not a partisan decision, everybody agreed with this, that we are going to ensure that all our economic decisions are on the basis of fiscal discipline. And now we are reaping the dividends from that national decision around good fiscal management of our public affairs. That we are now able to make capital investments like these. And of course, Mr. Van der Plas pointed out that this is not the only ship that we are investing in. Recently, the Jamaica Defense Force would have received another offshore patrol vessel, which would have increased its fleet. That is, of course, to assist us in our national security. And having vessels like these, plus the resources of the Coast Guard, helps us now to really focus on the maritime economy, the blue economy. And these investments are not for show. The taxpayers looking on might be wondering, so how is this going to help me? And oftentimes, when you are in fiscal crises, you have to make decisions that are more short-term than long-term. And short-term decisions only help you in the short term. And so, because it's very difficult to get people who are poor and suffering to think long term, especially in fiscal crises. We don't get to make these kinds of decisions that will increase our potential now and in the future, that having resources like these would make possible. The Port Authority has long been an important global player in transshipment, but had seen its competitiveness decline in the first 15 years of the new century. It has also established itself as a center of cruise tourism, but growth had tapered and begun to decline. There were several contributing factors, including the global financial crisis in the first decade and the government's debt burden, which prevented the government from providing further support to state agencies to undertake critical investments. A new approach had to be found. I felt it was important to quickly conclude the process that had been started for a long-term concession agreement for the Kingston Container Terminal. It was critical to attract a global player with market presence and the capacity to invest at a time when the government was constrained. So within 6 months of taking, I placed great emphasis on ensuring that the concession agreement for the Kingston Port was concluded. Time has shown that this was the right decision. With investments of over $300 million by the Kingston Container Terminal concessionaire, the terminal has been restored to a position of competitiveness. Volumes are once again growing, and it is heartening that this growth has accelerated even during the pandemic. Also, the Port Authority, freed of the day-to-day responsibilities of managing a global transshipment terminal, they now have the time and they are now able to focus on other critical developmental areas. Maritime services capacity has been renewed with the addition of new vessels with state-of-the-art capabilities, the Jamaica 3 being the case in point. Jamaica is the first country in the region to have a fully functional port community system with an electronically integrated sector, terminals, shipping agents, brokers, truckers, and warehouses. Cargo clearance times have substantially improved, and the Jamaica Doing Business Index has advanced significantly. Significant investments have been made in Montego Bay Cruise Terminal, which now houses 2 berths. The terminal also serves as host for the LNG storage and regasification center serving the Montego Bay power plant. The 3 major cruise ports now house 2 terminals capable of accommodating the largest cruise vessels. A new cruise terminal has been established at the historical Naval Dockyard in Port Royal, of which I am particularly proud, which was a significant milestone that brought cruise tourism to Jamaica's south coast. Cruise volumes have grown substantially over the past 5 years, excluding last year, of course, because of the pandemic. The BPO sector has been expanded. The Port Authority, in making investments in these nearshore logistics services, has put in significant investments there. And some of those facilities are almost ready for tenanting. Now, I know the past year has been challenging for the Port Authority, particularly with the closure of cruise in March 2020. The government's strategy during the pandemic has been to continue investing and further developing our tourism product offerings. Particularly during the pandemic, we must be strategic, pragmatic, and flexible in the investments that we make to ensure our resilient recovery. Jamaica was awarded the world-leading cruise destination at the 2020 World Travel Awards, and I'm pleased to see that the Port Authority of Jamaica has been investing in infrastructure projects to further cement this status. For example, the New Hamden Wharf Artisan Village in Trelawney will enhance the Falmouth experience for both visitors and residents and the town itself. Investments have been made in improving attractions around Falmouth and to create an ambience that is welcoming for tourism. In Ocho Rios, a new promenade has been built which connects the Reynolds Pier to the fishing village and to the town. The Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Port Authority have been jointly working on protocols that will allow us to resume cruise operations safely. It is a challenge. There are concerns about the return of cruise shipping to the island from a public health standpoint. But of course, if you were to talk to the attractions, if you were to talk to the craft vendors who have not had income from cruise in more than a year and a half, and how difficult it has been for them to survive, you would understand the difficult balancing act that the government has to undertake. Lives and livelihoods. And Professor Shirley and Chairman Jan can tell you that it is a struggle, and I use that word without any quotation marks, to come to the position that will satisfy both concerns. I believe we are close, I believe we are there, and we are expecting to have cruise shipping return to Jamaica very soon with strict protocols that will enable persons who have had their livelihoods decimated by the pandemic to have some hope even. And at the same time, with the maintenance of the protocols, that no life is lost because of complacency or carelessness. These are the challenges we face. But we cannot continue, and I will say it here at the Port Authority, in managing the pandemic by always shutting down. Shutting down has serious financial implications and increases the fiscal risk to agencies and statutory bodies like the Port Authority, who they are not funded by the government. They are funded by revenues generated from their operations, such as cruise. And without that revenue, their balance sheet, their daily operations are imperiled. So the government has to be thinking very carefully now how we put in place measures in managing the pandemic from a public health standpoint, but also ensuring that we do not create fiscal risks in our public sector bodies by affecting their ability to function and their revenues. So the government is taking a kind of long-term strategic view and thinking as to how this will be done, but there has to be a pivot in the management of the pandemic. while a lot has been achieved, there is much more that needs to be done, particularly in the context of staging a stronger and faster recovery from the pandemic. I have therefore charged the board of the Port Authority of Jamaica with accelerating the development of the near-port logistics sector. I've also directed that they catalyze further development in our port towns, like Falmouth, by developing their lands in close proximity to the port in ways that would lead to the development of a new township to serve Trelawney as an example of how we can regenerate our historic towns. You know, people see the cruise ship terminal across the harbor here at Port Royal as just an investment in a port. That's not the end all of the strategy. This is about the redevelopment of the entire Port Royal. Port Royal has been an asset, a historical asset sitting down there, and we have not realized the value in it. We can realize the value and preserve the historical essence of the asset, but at the same time get the economic benefit. And that is what we have done with Port Royal. You know, unfortunately, the pandemic came on us, but it is still there, and we are still continuing our investment. When this pandemic is past, we will be in a stronger, advantageous position by having Port Royal. And we will move very quickly to do the same for Falmouth in Trelawney. We have the port there. We are investing in the port, but we are also investing in the town, and we will, in fact, create a new township right there in Falmouth. And the Port Authority will lead that. Again, unlocking the historical value of the asset of Falmouth. Finally, I have directed the board to look intently at ways of having the public participate in the ownership of segments of its operations which have been successfully de-risked. This is a complicated way to say that the Port Authority's role is a pioneer developer. It takes the risk of developing new and frontier industries, and in doing that, it de-risks the industry. So right now, investments in BPOs totally de-risked. It's a mature industry almost. People who are investing know and understand the industry. There's no reason why the Port Authority needs to have resources tied up in assets in that industry for much longer, because there are other frontier activities that it needs to get involved in. And so it can pass these assets on to our stock market or to qualified investors. And so the directive has been given that the Port Authority should seek to divest itself of some of these assets, of course, in open and transparent ways that the public can participate in and the public can own, which is in keeping with the government's other strategy of creating the ownership economy. So in particular, I have mandated the board to explore the monetization of a portion of the PAJ's investment in BPO facilities through a listing on the stock exchange. This will enable the Port Authority to generate cash to accelerate other investments. At the same time, it will provide thousands of Jamaicans the opportunity to invest in income-generating real estate assets. This is aligned to the government's policy of socializing wealth, generating opportunities to all Jamaicans through the stock exchange, as we did with Wigton and Trans-Jamaica Highway. And finally, let me say a few words about the importance of governance. Good governance is at the heart of any successful business. It is essential for a company or organization to achieve its objectives and drive improvement. as well as to maintain legal and ethical standing in the eyes of shareholders, regulators, and the wider community. Good governance is even more important in the public sector because you're dealing with the public's money. Public sector entities, therefore, must be held to a higher standard of stewardship and accountability. The government recognizes the critical role that boards of public sector entities play and the need to have persons with competence, experience, and the highest level of integrity serving these boards. I believe that we can say this without fear of contradiction for the board of the PAJ. The board has led this organization through the difficult pandemic, has led the transformations that have been taking place, have led the sometimes very complex new projects that are coming to fruition, and they have done so without even one question ever being raised about the public administration of the Port Authority of Jamaica. And I would say that this board and the management of the PAJ is an example. And there's a good reason why, we take a lot of time in ensuring that we place the highest level of competence on the board. But when you have an organization as large, both in terms of its asset, in terms of its annual spend, but in terms of the regulatory control that it has, one small error can create major problems. So it is absolutely important that the governance of agencies like these that are macro-critical, that the highest level of competence, skill, and expertise is employed in the management of the organization. So I want to congratulate the Board of Management and staff of the Port Authority for their significant achievements during the past year, despite the challenges posed by the pandemic. Through focus on the need to keep moving forward, they continue to combine ambition and agility toward an innovative and profitable future. The Port Authority of Jamaica has truly navigated this pandemic by overcoming the challenges and seizing the opportunities. I look forward to the continued strong performance of the PAJ as we work collectively to recover stronger, faster, and better from the pandemic. I thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prime Minister. I'm just going to take the opportunity to use this platform to say that I am fully vaccinated, and I certainly wear it with a badge of honor, and I echo your sentiment in all of us trying to take responsibility for ourselves and the persons who we come into contact with. Thank you so very much. Good governance is at the heart of any business. Thank you very much, and congratulations again to the PAJ. Now, as I was researching the christening, because as I said, I'm just a commoner, right? I just passed the seas, I admire the ships, but I didn't really understand the intricacies of christening ships. And I came across two particular traditions, and that is that when it comes to christening a ship, a woman is always selected for it, but not just any woman. She's well respected, a woman of accomplishment, elegance, dignity, and sophistication, certainly to reflect and match the vessel itself. The other tradition is something that was dated years before, where the Greeks used to wear olive branch wreaths around their heads. They would drink wine, and then they would pour water on the vessel. The Babylonians used to sacrifice oxen, the Turks used to sacrifice sheep, and the Vikings used to donate or offer up human blood. Now, I can assure you that we found the perfect woman for the job, and I can assure you that she will not be doing any of those traditions that used to be. But instead, we have adopted and we will continue to adopt the breaking of the bottle. At this time, I invite the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness to kindly do us the honors of christening Jamaica 3 utility vessel.
I'm going to do it in my mouth if you don't mind. God bless this vessel, Jamaica 3, and all who may sail in her.
Congratulations. No, I saw the confetti. I'm not too certain if the confetti was to come afterwards, but that was absolutely fantastic. The Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness showing you how it is truly done. She said she needs to use her own strength and power to do the job. And of course, this is for good fortune for those watching, wondering, why do we do that? It is for good fortune for not only the vessel, but also the passenger and the crew members when they take to sea. Thank you so very much. At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Hortense Ross Inararti, Superintendent of Pilotage, PAJ, to kindly do a presentation to the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness.
To the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Port Authority, our President and CEO, Professor Gordon Shirley, the management and staff of the Port Authority of Jamaica, it is with distinct pleasure that I present to you these gifts as a token of our appreciation for you having blessed us with your presence here this afternoon. In addition, I would like to say, as a female, you have added increased significance to this ceremony, and we thank you.
Thank you very much. I see you well researched. I love orchids. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mrs. Hortense Ross Inorarity. And I was just making it very known to the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness that if she certainly does not want to accept the orchids by right, by default, the Master of Ceremony absolutely accepts. I'd like to invite Mrs. Elva Williams Richards, Senior Vice President, Finance, Corporate Planning, Information Services and Materials Management of the PAJ to kindly do the honors of presenting to the Prime Minister. Please make her welcome.
So, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, it is my absolute pleasure to present to you on behalf of the Port Authority of Jamaica, its management, board of directors, this gift. It's a token of our appreciation for your attendance to this ceremony and participating with us. We thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mrs. Elva Williams Richards. We've come to the end of the program, but certainly it would be remiss of us to leave without moving the vote of thanks. I introduce and I welcome, I invite to the stage Mr. Mervis Edgehill, Senior Vice President, Engineering and Port Development of the PAJ, to kindly do the honors. Please make him welcome.
A very pleasant afternoon to you all. It is indeed a great honor for me to be called upon to give a vote of thanks on behalf of the Port Authority of Jamaica on the occasion of the Commission of Jamaica 3. This afternoon, I wish to acknowledge the presence of the following persons: the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, and the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, Deputy Speaker of the House and Member of Parliament for East Rural St. Andrew. Custos Rotulorum, St. Andrew, the Honorable Dr. Patricia Marshall Donwell, and Mr. Winston Ennis, Deputy Mayor, KCC. Also special note for Mr. Alok Jan, which is the Chairman of the PAJ Board, and the other board members who are here present. And of course, the Honorable Gordon Shirley, President and CEO of the PAJ. Other dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, according to St. Ambrose, who lived many years ago, part of the 4th century, no duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. So I'm delighted to have been given the pleasant duty of delivering the words of thanks this afternoon. I will start first with, I must say, a big thank you to our Prime Minister, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, for his keynote address, in which you emphasize the need for modernizing of the infrastructure and development of capital projects that enhance growth. You also emphasize the need for good governance. Prime Minister, I hear you loudly, and we accept the challenge. We're also inspired by, express our gratitude to the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness for a role you displayed this afternoon, the Christening of Jamaica to utility vessels. Sometimes you need to push the thing a little harder. Special thanks, of course, to Mr. Alok John, which is the chairman of the Port Authority Board, for his continued stewardship of the PJ Board. And I also include the other members of the board who are here present, okay? And thanks, of course, to the Honorable Gordon Shirley, President and CEO, whose inspiring leadership in these turbulent times has stimulated us to achieve our goal, as demonstrated on this occasion. My colleague, Captain DeLisa, who has steered the process from inception, a big congratulations, Cap, to you. A big thanks should also go to the Cadets of Caribbean Maritime Institute for the delivery of a well-coordinated drill which was poetry in motion. Mr. Daniel John Jackson, saxophonist, for his wonderful rendition of a series of medley. It's really well done. Of course, our partners, Mr. Van de Pas, representing the manufacturers domain, who has demonstrated cooperation with the PJ throughout the entire process. I must offer special appreciation to Mrs. Lloyd Pinnock for her inspiring prayers, which we all need at this time. Last but not least, to our master of ceremony, Dr. Terrell Reed, who flawlessly took us through this afternoon function. We say a big thanks. And sorry, the final now is really a thanks to the PJ staff, in particular the Arbors Department, who were directly involved in this thing from the inception. Thank you all.
Thank you so very much for that. So we have come, we've seen, we've broken the bottle eventually, we popped the confetti, and certainly now it's the time to see the actual beauty that is now. Because we are, of course, observing all protocols, we're going to invite the official party, which comprises of the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, our Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, the Most Honorable Professor Gordon Shirley, as well as Mr. Alan Jean, Board Chairman of the Port Authority of Jamaica, to have the first official tour, and they will be toured with the help of Captain Helps. Therefore, we invite those members to kindly make their way. The crew, the Jamaica 3 crew, is already aboard the vessel, and we will have that first official tour of the vessel right now. Afterwards, if there's anyone else who would like to have a tour of the vessel, we will have the Chief Officer, Dino Campbell, who will assist with that tour right afterwards. Do enjoy.